Come on in. Welcome to Idled Out, where we talk all things Survivor. My name is Luke, and today we're talking about strong Survivor tribes that completely imploded at the merge. At one point, all of these tribes seemed unbeatable. These are the tribes that entered the merge with numbers and options, who then managed to blow their lead through strategic ineptitude, social mismanagement, and good old-fashioned big move-itis. It's one of my favorite types of tribes, the disaster tribe. But most of them flame out before we ever reach the individual portion of the game. There's something so fun to watch, though, about a strong tribe that has the game in their hands, but who then decide to pass the ball at the 1-yard line. So let's talk about them. Look, I'm no advocate for pagongings, but couldn't you guys stick together for at least a vote? Today, I'll be ranking these tribes based on how much of an overall disaster their merge game was, including how large of a numerical advantage they squandered, how quickly they turned on one another, how often they needlessly ceded ground to their enemies, and how badly they fumbled their internal relationships. So grab yourself a snack, do your happy dance, and hurry on over. But watch out for that clothesline, as we take a look at 5 seemingly unbeatable Survivor tribes that completely blew up at the merge. At number 5 is Kama in Survivor: Edge of Extinction. Kama entered the merge 8 strong against a fractured and dysfunctional Lesu, half of whom wanted to flip to Kama anyway. How do you mess that up? By the merge, half of this tribe hadn't even been to tribal council, and the other half had only been to one. So the simple answer is they were just too eager to turn on each other. They started by targeting Joe before he could go on an immunity run. Joe was a returning player and challenge beast who no one really liked, so fair enough. I guess now at least he'll have more time to do the weirdest possible stuff you can do. In hindsight, Gavin, Victoria, and Julia flipping to vote out Eric is where Kama really threw the game away. This was a good move, but it happened way too early, really alienating Julie and Ron, and I'm not sure what it is about their personalities that made them think that they'd take being completely betrayed all that well.
We all have control. No, I'm ready to jump ship. I'm ready to jump ship. I'm ready to jump ship. Oh.
The Eric vote caused enough dysfunction on Kama that they were fractured into various factions, giving the Lesu 3 power to play Kingmaker throughout the midpoint of the game. To be fair, Kama didn't completely implode, which is why they're only at number 5. Gavin, Julie, and Victoria all made the endgame, and the remnants of the tribe sort of reformed once Devons emerged as the primary target in the game. But it's still wild for a tribe that considered themselves the love tribe to immediately fold and lose so badly to a tribe where everyone hated everyone else. Hey, it's like the reverse Exile Island. At number 4 is Rotu in Survivor Marquesas. This tribe is Survivor's OG alliance ball fumbling, made even more impressive by this being an era where tribes were by and large expected to stick together at the merge. Original Rotu entered the merge against Mataamu 7-3, which quickly became 7-2 when Boston Rob was Boston bounced. For Rotu, this should have been smooth sailing. The Rotu 4, the majority alliance consisting of John, Tammy, the General, and Zoe, simply had to placate the outsiders Kathy, Nalia, and Pascal. It's pretty simple. Just don't have the biggest egos in the history of the world, and you got this.
Nalia and Pascal, I think, are really supporting my success in this game and are really rooting for me. And knowing that you can rely upon those two people, I mean, it's like 2 free passes. It's an amazing experience. I mean, it's actually kind of mind-blowing.
Oh, shit. The majority on Rotu just straight up assumed that Nalia and Pascal were content to play for John or Tammy to win, and honestly, they were kinda right. They just had to not be the most outwardly arrogant people in the history of Survivor. At the Coconut Chop Challenge, they put the pecking order on display for all to see, targeting all the outsiders first, which V, Sean, and Kathy were more than happy to wave in the faces of Nalia and Pascal. It's just really hard to get across the arrogance of this group. They genuinely thought they were the good guys, and that everyone else would just roll out the red carpet for them to waltz to the end, because they're so amazing. But in a move that changed Survivor history, Nalia and Pascal flipped to the trio of outsiders at Final 9 to form a new majority, then picked off the Rotu 4 one by one. Rotu's problem was that they were blinded by their arrogance. They thought those on the bottom had no agency, and they were just too comfortable making it clear who was on top. The majority simply played on autopilot after the merge. The only problem is that they were driving a Tesla. At number 3 is Tandang in Survivor Philippines. This tribe was a complete mess before the merge, and I don't think these 6 people could peacefully decide where to have dinner, let alone who to vote for. But they still earned their spot on this list by being the first tribe in Survivor history to make the merge with all their original members intact, only to then constitute 3 of the first 4 people out. Tandang was simply too dysfunctional to get to this stage of the game together. Artis hated Scoopin, Lisa hated Abby, Scoopin hated Chris Hansen, Abby hated RC, Pete hated RC. Okay, a lot of people hated RC. These rivalries needed to be settled at a tribal council that wasn't on day freaking 19. The merge of Survivor Philippines should have initially at least been a war between Calabao and Tandang, but instead these 2 tribes were both so eager to pick off one of their own, Penner and RC respectively, that everyone agreed to split votes between the 2 instead, and RC goes home. To their credit, Tandang did try to hold it together at the next vote more or less, but the following vote, Scoopin flipped to Calabao to take out Artis, forcing Lisa to come along for the ride on the next one, where Pete was voted out. Now, Abby managed to survive a few votes after this, despite her number very much being up, and Scoopin and Lisa made Final Tribal. So this tribe's merge game wasn't a complete disaster for everyone, but this is just a much different season if Tandang just throws their weight around at the merge a little and holds it together for a vote or 2. For one thing, it would have much more laughter.
What do you think?
I mean, that's what I think, but...
I think around here, I think it's better to like rally. What did you do back in New York?
Thank you, guys. Congratulations again.
At number 2 is Galoo in Survivor Samoa, a powerhouse tribe that dominated the pre-merge and only lost 2 challenges. Galoo was one of the best tribes of all time on paper, until they became one of its worst. It's actually impressive to enter the merge 8-4 with literally double the amount of players to Foa, and then proceed to Pagong yourself. By the finale, Galoo only had 1 player, Brett, left. Galoo is the poster child for the fact that sometimes going to tribal a couple times early on is good. Loyalties at Galoo had only been tested in 1 pre-merge tribal, when tribal outsider Yasmin was voted out. With no further tribal councils, and with no swap to get to know some new blood, at the merge, Galoo were chomping at the bit to turn on one another, with habitual overplayer John casting the first stone by targeting Laura via Monica, and somehow Eric takes the fall for that. Full credit to Natalie, she convinced Galoo to take out Eric first, giving Foa the foothold needed to exploit cracks and outmaneuver them. This was the final 12. A Foa would not go home until final freaking 5. The only reason Galoo isn't number 1 on this list is because, to their credit, they tried to hold it together a little bit a few times. Galoo did stick together at the next round at Final 11, but Russell successfully idles out Kelly, prompting Tribe Punching Bag Shambo to permanently flip to Foa. The final 10 vote is 5-5, but John chickens out on the rock draw and flips his vote to Laura, giving Foa plus Shambo a numerical advantage for the first time, allowing them to pick off the remaining members of Galoo one by one, starting with John. Ironically, Galoo would have been a stronger tribe had they gone to pre-merge tribal another time or 2, because they could have and probably would have taken out players like Shambo and John, who ultimately doomed the tribe later on by flipping. John can't take all the flack here though. Pretty much everyone on Galoo treated Shambo like a complete joke, which, fair, but it didn't do them any favors when Shambo flipped to Foa because they treated her with a modicum of respect. But even though they blew one of the biggest merged tribal leads of all time, I still gotta give Galoo a little credit because they at least aligned back together for one vote. And that's not something you can say about our number one tribe. The worst tribal implosion of all time is Timbira in Survivor Tocantins. It was a tough call between Galoo and Timbira for biggest post-merge fumble, but for me, Timbira takes the cake because although Galoo lost a larger numerical advantage, Timbira was tripping over themselves to hand JT the game. With a post-merge advantage of 6-3 over Jalapao at the merge following Joe's medevac, Timbira just needed to stick it out for a round or two and take out JT. They did not. There were three main factions on Timbira: the main alliance of Coach, Tyson, and Debbie, the minority alliance of Brendan and Sierra, and Floater Aaron. And all three groups kinda hated every other group, but they all loved JT. After going on a post-merge reward with JT, Brendan straight up says it's his goal to get JT as far as possible in the game, even at the expense of his own. Brendan quite literally was like, fuck the money, how can I go on more dates with JT? He actually started playing for JT to win. Who else has done that?
I have.
Oh yeah, buddy, you're not getting let off the hook. Coach also fell under JT's spell because he was enamored with JT's honor and good old boy country charm, and he wanted to utilize JT to take down who he perceived to be the dragon of the game, biggest threat to ever play, the soft-spoken granola guy from Colorado. Because Coach and Brendan were committed to taking out each other, the Jalapao 3 suddenly became the swing votes of the game, and they just sat back and alternated loyalties each round until they made the final four with Aaron, where they were finally forced to turn on each other. Honestly, Timbira probably fractures against anyone. The rift between Coach and his alleged dragon was just too big a score not to settle early on, but up against an alliance of one of the smartest strategic players ever, one of the best social players ever, and one of the most overall likable players ever, yeah, they really did not stand a chance. Their tribe was getting busted up harder than JT's tooth. Got nothing else for ya. If you liked this video more than Brendan likes JT, like and subscribe and I'll get you more Survivor content just like this. Until next time, don't get idled out.